Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream today. This is going to be an amazing live stream because I think there's so many very important pieces of the puzzle all smashed into one really dense webinar today. And I think that if you're watching this with me, if you're experiencing this webinar with us today, that you're going to get a lot of information very quickly. And so I know it's probably going to be feeling like drinking from a fire hose a little bit today, but that is okay, because that's where learning starts. We start with this big dump of knowledge, and then we get into it. We get that information up and out and spread around in our hearts and our minds and in our intellect. And then we start kind of bringing to life areas in our life that we can really move the needle, and we can fix some things that are broken that we didn't even know were broken sometimes. But we can get to work on that. And so that's what this webinar is all about. It's about business tools you can use to solve your problems, to fix problems in your business, some of them before those problems even start. That's why this webinar is so important today. And I hope if you're an entrepreneur out there, if you've been in business for 5 to 10 years, or if you're just starting out, that you're able to join with me today to watch this. Because if I would have known this stuff way back when, I would be probably 20 years ahead of where I am today. I'm glad for where I am. Praise God. I'm happy about it. But if I would have known this way back then, we would have been light years further. So what I'm trying to do in this webinar right now is give you that information fast, very, very densely, so that you can take this forward, apply it in your company, start the principles and mechanisms right away, and benefit from it. Okay, so my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm sorry I forgot to introduce myself. Sometimes when I come to these webinars, I just think like, okay, everybody here knows exactly who I am, and because they've probably seen 4 or 5 or 20 other videos that I've done, and they just know. But I guess that's not the case, actually. So my name is Jason Ellinger. I am the owner of Taiki Translations and TVP Team. We are a consulting and translation and digital services company, and we work around the globe to help businesses, entrepreneurs, and governments connect across their markets and enhance their relationships in their departments, as well as with their local foreign resources. So that's who I am, and I've been in entrepreneurial work for about 22, 24 years by now. And I started very young. Me and my brother started our first business way back when. And we were doing landscaping and lawn care. That's the first thing I did. My dad, he got a 20-acre cemetery on a local municipal bid. And he said, all right, Jason, Eric, get after it. So he got us 2 lawnmowers and 2 weed eaters. And there we went. And we started mowing. And he paid us $250 every month. And I was happy because I was the only 12-year-old that I knew making $250 a month. That was freaking good money back then. So fast forward 20 plus years, and I'm still in entrepreneurship. It was a great experience, a hard experience, but a great experience. But that started my journey. And then we went right into, my brother and I, as we were mowing the cemetery, where everybody would come and visit the cemetery, and we just had this organic marketing. And it sounds strange, but we had this organic marketing that everybody would come and visit their relatives at the cemetery, and they would see my brother and I at the cemetery working and mowing, and they're like, hey, can you come mow my grass? And we're like, yeah, why not? So we got a 16-foot flatbed trailer, loaded up our lawnmowers on there, and drug it around all over the city cutting grass. And before we knew it, we had about 60 monthly clients where we were just mowing grass and mowing grass and mowing grass. And that kind of bloomed into the first landscaping business that I owned and operated for the next 6 years. It was a great opportunity. Paid my first couple of years through college, and the rest is history. Then I got in the Air Force, and I finished my university and got into other business opportunities. So I'm here today to share some of those lessons with you that I learned along the way that I wish I knew way back when, but you can get them delivered right here on this channel right now. So if you own a business, I'm changing to my slideshow here. I don't see it up on the screen. Is it okay? Thumbs up if it is okay. My team. Okay, gotcha. By the way, guys, Please, if you have a comment or a question at any time throughout the webinar, please insert that into the comment section below. I will stop and I will address that comment as comprehensively as I can, or that question, and then we'll keep on keeping on chugging. I am doing this webinar every Wednesday at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, right? Yes, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. And I invite you to join me because I'm sharing all the years of information and knowledge and wisdom that I've gathered over these years with you, and you can just take part in that, and you can ask real live questions or real questions about your business and the challenges that you're facing. And I know you face challenges. How do I know that? Because every single business opportunity that I've had, that I've operated up to date, has faced challenges in one way or another. Way back then when I did the landscaping thing, it was like, we need to sharpen the blades on the lawnmower, right? The sand in some of these yards would just eat up all the blades off of our lawnmower. In South Texas, in that blackjack sand, if you know what I'm talking about, put blackjack in the comments. But that sand would just eat those blades to death, and then we would have to figure out, and we'd have to sharpen them. We had to sharpen them like every month, or we had to replace them, right? So that was a small problem, but we had to do it. We had to deal with it. And you might have other problems in your business. I remember my first, I just gave myself a prompt here, pushing memory lane, first team member, when I had to hire my first real team member after getting into, so after that startup entrepreneurship and landscaping thing, and then going into the Air Force, and then doing the finance thing, and then learning, graduating from Liberty University, and getting out of the Air Force, going back into private business, entrepreneurial work, doing as chief financial officer of a firm, and then transitioning to my own CEO position here, the business that I'm operating still today. I remember hiring in that period, the most recent business, and this was about 11 years ago, my first team member in this business. And I had worked with other people before in my other businesses, but I remember going through thinking, man, this business that we do, this work that we do is so complicated, because there was a lot of technology involved. There was a lot of IT. There was a lot of sales information that you needed to know to be able to, to be able to communicate with the clients in a way that they would know that we knew what we were doing. And there was a lot of just turmoil in my mind as to whether or not we would be able to get a team member on our team who would be able to understand how to serve our clients the way I wanted to serve our clients and the way my wife did. Because my wife and I, we were like two peas in a pod back then. We worked together on business. It was just me and her, and her brother, my brother-in-law, Mike, and we were just doing whatever we could to make things work. But when we brought on that first team member, I toiled over this night and day for weeks, because I was just so worried. Like, gosh, how am I going to lead this person? How am I going to not screw this up? How am I going to make sure that they know exactly what to do? How do I even follow up with them like I should? And all these different problems, these different things that I had in my mind. And I was so afraid, what if some months go by and I don't have enough to pay this person? How do I handle that situation? It was just paralyzing. And so many of you out there might be living in this paralyzing fear that does paralyze so many entrepreneurs out there. And so if that's you, you are in the right place, because I can help you with that, because I've been there and worked through it. And these are some of the things that helped me along my journey. So each period in business has its own problems. So if you're in entrepreneurship, there's going to be problems, and each period has its own problems. 20 years as an entrepreneur has helped me understand how to work so many of these problems effectively and very rapidly. Some problems that before, like it was the sharpening the blades on the mower, that was just a super simple thing. Take the blades off, sharpen them, put them back on, keep going. You're good. But in future problems are, okay, we have this team and they're working on this big thing for this big client, and there's a lot of details, there's a lot of relationships involved, it's very high stakes. There's even some government interest in this thing, and we've got to take be very careful that we don't make bad PR for ourselves or for the client. We've got to be very careful. So how do we work through these bigger problems that are very complicated effectively and smoothly? Because if you're going to be in business, you're going to have to figure this out very, very quickly. So Learn mechanisms that solve problems, that help you solve problems. And as you learn those, it will help keep you from having to face huge problems in the future. Listen, every big problem was once a small problem that a leader failed to address. I'm going to say that again very clearly. Every big problem was once a small problem that a leader failed to address. You can solve so many problems at the get-go, at the very initiation of that problem, if you simply know how and what to address, when to address it. And every big problem used to be a small one, but now it's big because nobody took the right actions in the appropriate moments to keep it from becoming catastrophic. And so that's what I'm hoping to do and help you with in this webinar today. One of the first things that we have to do, and this is starting to step into the tool. We're starting to get into the actual information here. Okay. So listen, one of the first things that you have to do in your business to help it understand how to start solving these problems very creatively and very quickly is create sections. Now, I know this sounds basic. Some of this content is going to sound very basic. And honestly, guys, when I learn stuff, when I'm attending seminars or when I'm reading through books, I've read lots and lots of books right now. By now, I've read so many different things and got so many perspectives from so many different people, sat through seminars and watched webinars and listened to great leaders talk about this in conversations. But there's always a nugget somewhere in that piece of content. There's always a piece of gold, a diamond in the rock that I can extract and plug into my business to make it more effective, to make it operate more smoothly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. That's such a big help. I can take that and use that. So I'm not saying everything in this webinar is going to be new to you. I hope it's not, because if you're an entrepreneur and everything in this webinar is new to you, then it's probably, you got a long way to go. But if you found some very helpful nugget that you can take and apply to your business, that's why I'm doing this, because I think you're going to be able to make your life and your business better by finding nuggets in the information that's shared. All right, so one of the first things we have to do to help our business is to create sections. These sections help us understand where our problems are. No duh, right? If we can identify the source of the problem, or at least the area in our business where the problem comes from, we can begin to narrow down a vector or an object reference, just a source of pain. In other words, a source, something we can hone in on and dig down into to get the details of, right? So first, let me just show you some of the sections that you need to identify in your company. I know this might be basic for some of you, but some of you it might not. And so I wanted to make sure that I started off with a very basic level. My team inserted this slide for me. So again, my name is Jason Ellinger. Please subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and join me every single Wednesday at 8:30, where I'm going to share some really helpful, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, where I'll share some really helpful information for you about operating your company and helping you move your life forwards and upwards. And we can help with the implementation. All right, so subscribe to our channel, like our video, and make sure you don't miss any of the future broadcasts that we're doing. All right, let's move forward. What are the sections? Pretty simple. Finance and accounting, marketing, sales, production, human resources, leadership and planning, research and quality assurance, legal, and contracting. If you're watching this video, even after the live webinar, put in the comments which area you are strongest in, and then which area that you think you have the most potential to learn, to grow in, that you need to grow in order to help your company move forwards faster. Go ahead and put those in the chat right now. All right, so what are these sections? These are the sections, and I would say maybe not all of them apply to you specifically in your situation right now. For example, legal and contracting. Maybe not every organization needs this huge legal and contracting section in their company, and they're going to have to figure this out. Maybe this is something that comes later down the line when you grow to that level, or maybe you just never need it because you're not in an industry where you require much legal and counsel and contracting assistance. So if that's you, that's fine. But here are some options, and there may be a couple other. I tried to put a pretty comprehensive list on here for you to give you kind of the big sections, and you need to do this. You need to identify the big sections in your company so that you can start to narrow down where we're going to look when we're searching for how to solve the problem that we're dealing with. Because you can be in a finance meeting, or for that matter, you could be in a production meeting with your production team, and it's like, man, why are we having so much trouble getting this work done? Why are these where we have so much drama and conflict in this area of getting our work done? And this thing is causing these project delays, and it's starting to work out its way out in whining or tension among the team, and even some of that's gotten back to the client because some of these have been some kind of more aggressive than desired conversations between production and the client. So what's happening here? And you find out that it has very little to do with that. Maybe the vendors are maybe the margins of the project are too small. Maybe we underbid the project. Maybe the planning for the project was not as it should have been. Maybe we don't have the human resources in place to be able to process that the way we should. And these kind of start sectioning it out, different problems into different sections of your company, and you can start to hone in on what those problems are in those sections and start to solve for them. And this will be a very, very helpful first step for you to be able to start solving big problems in your business, or keep those problems from becoming much, much bigger and spreading out into multiple sections in your company. So first, one of the first things you need to do in your company as an entrepreneur and as you grow your company is to separate out the sections and identify what sections exist in your company. All right. Next thing, after identifying the sections, you will know where to start learning and growing. Either you might have to grow, or your team might have to grow, but somebody is probably going to have to grow. John Maxwell says you are the lid on your organization. If you are not growing, to your extent to comprehend information, your extent to the extent that you can comprehend information, the extent you are a good leader, to the extent that you show up to work on time consistently, to the extent that you are able to be disciplined enough to do the work required to cause your company to move forward faster, you are the lid. And if you don't grow, your company won't either. You should not expect your company to grow if you personally are not growing. And so identifying the sections helps us to start learning where we as leaders have to learn to grow to be a leader of that section, because we don't have to get down inside and learn all the nitty-gritty about every single operation that has to happen inside that, but we do have to learn how to lead that section. And that's where we're going to go through some of that stuff in here. All right, so either yourself or your team may also have to grow. This is a first problem-solving mechanism, and it might not sound like a problem-solving mechanism, but it's an important tool to start breaking down the problems. And if you can break down problems, if you can categorize them out, you can find the resources that can help you in those areas. None of us, not a single one of us, knows it all. And this is where we go, we start to find where our weaknesses are, and we take books, seminars, consultants, and guides. Means not your Uncle Larry who drinks beer every Friday night and gets drunk and comes to work late on Monday morning. That's not where we get the information from. We get the information from people who have done it recently, the thing that you're having trouble with. People who have worked through it, people who currently work through it, or they have worked through it at some time in the recent past. And normally that's not inside your group of friends or those group of contacts that you have available to you. Normally it's not. It's outside of that. It's going to require you to get a more a higher level of thinking in order to work through it. So seminars, consultants, guides are people who have done it recently. So make sure you have that piece of knowledge in your mind, because so many of us, and I've done it too. Hi, my name is Jason. I have a degree in DUMB, right? Dumb, right? So, I've done it too. So we've all been there. We've all done really dumb stuff, and now we get to move forwards. So your first mentors come from the pages of great books written by great men and women, guys. And that if you don't start with yourself and growing there, you will never be able to lead a team to solve really challenging problems in your company. So I just want to start off with this piece because it's a very basic but very fundamental and very helpful for you to be able to go forwards and work through the next steps. All right. Basic tool for working through problems with your team. This is a very important tool. I learned this some years ago, and I wrote down this as a reminder to myself. And it's very hard for leaders, bosses, because you think you have to provide all the answers. And I was listening to a session with a vice president of a company, and he said, you know what? One of the biggest problems that leaders have is not leveraging the strength of their team. He says, let me tell you what I mean by that. He said, as an owner of something, a CEO, a big boss somewhere, you think you have this kind of complex, or you believe that it is expected of you that you have all the answers all the time to any problem, and that you know how to work through it. And if you're not, you're a failure as a leader, or you're fake. And he said, that's just not true. The very reason we have teams is to fill in for where we lack. And your team has genius in areas where you are weak. And you need to leverage that strength, because that's the number one failure of any new leader, is they do not leverage the genius within their team. And you can do that, and I can do that. And it's also recognizing that, well, I'm not hotshot, I'm not maverick. I'm, hi, my name is Jason, and I'm, there's some things that I have trouble with too, right? We all have that. And so acknowledging that, and then taking your steps forwards to get better or leverage the strength of those who are better than you at something. We have to be able to acknowledge that, first of all, not be prideful in the way that we deal with our team, and then work with them to draw out those genius in our team. So how do we do this? How do you kind of make that a reality for you and your team? So whenever you are interfacing or working in a meeting with your team, these are some rules, and I literally have them. Okay, let me just show you, because it's actually written. I wrote it down on a handbill. This is years old. I have written this down by hand, and I put it by my computer screen so that whenever, because a lot of the meetings that I have are virtual, when I'm talking to my team, I have this rule. So we lead with questions, not answers. By the way, this didn't come from me. I didn't originate this. I read this in Good to Great by Stephen something. Anyways, I read it in a book, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. So lead with questions, not answers. Remember what that chief executive said. He's like, look, leverage the strength of your team. Lead with questions. Lead with questions. Be genuinely curious about what the problem is. Because if we're dealing with a problem, you need to know the details. And you probably don't know all the functions of it. And that's okay, because you own the thing, but you don't know how everything works. So lead with questions, not answers. Engage in dialogue and debate. Don't coerce. Real conflicts lead to the best answers. Jordan Peterson talks about this. He said, if you're going to have any resolution on anything that matters, then you are going to have a dialogue, back and forth banter, about what the next best step is. If you just talk to yourself, you're not going to have very good solutions very often. But when you gather your team together, you engage them in dialogue and debate, not coercion, and that leads to the best answers in your organization. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit later, but conflict is very important on your team. If you have no conflict anywhere on your team, then I guarantee you have big problems that are not being solved efficiently and effectively. And if you, on your team, you're like, oh my gosh, we can't have conflict on my team. We're professionals. If you're at that level, it's even worse for you. You have to be able to have productive conflict in your team. If you can't have that, and if you can't get to the level of that kind of the edge of the almost kind of getting a little bit where somebody could kind of get really angry at somebody else, If you're never at that point, then it's a very dangerous situation for your company because you're not driving to the best answers. The best answers come from real conflict that is coming from engaged dialogues and debates among team members. All right. Next rule, conduct autopsies without blame or shame. So when you come to the meeting, when you're talking with your team, you're conducting autopsies, talking about, okay, what went wrong? How did it go wrong? Who was in the process? And everybody on the team knows, even if their name is listed as one of the people who caused the problem, we're not blaming or shaming people here. We're simply trying to find out where things went wrong. And if you can't do this with your team, conduct an autopsy without blame or shame, you as a leader need to grow in this area in a big way, because it's so important for team members to be able to communicate openly and freely about problems they have created. If they can't do that, you're not driving to good solutions. Hear me again. If people can't communicate, identifying their own faults without feeling shamed and overly embarrassed and like downtrodden and broken, then you're not driving to the best answers for the solutions for your company. So stick with me here, guys. I don't want to lose you on that note, guys. All right. Build red flag mechanisms as you work through challenges with your team. So these are early warnings for potentially deeper problems. So once you've worked through a problem, the final step isn't like, okay, we found what the problem is, we fixed it, now we go on. No, the final thing that you do is you build red flag mechanisms so that so it never happens again. So that if we get close to the border, we have a flag that pops up, or somebody's hair catches on fire, or something happens in the building where somebody says, we had a bad thing happen there before. We've been here before. We've experienced this, and this is bad juju. All right. And so we're like, okay. All right. We got a red flag. Let's get out of here before we start to get into bad problems. And so that's how we keep from, this is a tool that you can use to work with your team. So take this, make yourself a reminder, write it down somewhere, put it on a Post-it note. I don't care. But as you interface with your team, make sure these rules are in action. This is an active thing that you can do right now, probably today in your marketing meeting, your sales meeting, maybe your accounting meeting, whatever you're interfacing with your team with today. You can use this right now and you can put it to work for you and it will be to your benefit. All right. Now, everybody hears about this word SOPs. Make SOPs. I need to make SOPs. I got to make SOPs. Listen. SOPs are very important. But I've seen so many business owners focus on SOPs for years and never get anything real accomplished, and nothing in their business changed. Okay? So, all right. So you do have to set up rhythms, but you do need to know a couple very important rhythms that actually make a difference. All right. 2 key areas. If I was at the beginning of this whole process and I was setting everything up for brand new, these are the 2 areas that I would set up standard operating procedures at. Hiring, onboarding, initial training. I put it into one. I know it feels like 3 sections, but to me, it's actually kind of one, because it's a step in the process to me. And there's a lot of things in that process, in that step. But you need standard operating procedures on how you do hiring, onboarding, and your initial training. Okay? That's the first thing. And the second key area, this is a tool, guys. Remember, this is a tool for you to take and use right now in your company. Second key area for you is meeting rhythms. Now, I know that sounds like vague, but look, there are 4 to 7 types of meetings, depending on your specific type of company, that you should be having every single month or week, or depending on the type of meeting. Okay. And I can share with you the types of meetings that you need to have and help you get those implemented to your company. But you're going to have to contact us through the comments or by email. So there's 4 to 7 types of meetings that you need to have. So, and these 2 key areas, not the entire, remember those 7 sections? Well, the reason I don't tell you that you should have SOPs in all 7 sections, at least not at first, is because it's going to change so many times in a very, especially at the beginning, the first 10 years of your business. This stuff in all of those sections change so drastically depending on technology, personnel, expertise, access to information, excuse me, and it could be a myriad of other things that impact it. And those things change so rapidly. But there are two areas that you must have standard operating procedures. And then this tool will set you up for success in all the other areas if you do these two really well. So set up standard operating procedures for you and your company in hiring, onboarding, and initial training, one block, and your meeting rhythms. What meetings you have, when you have them, how you behave in those meetings, and how often, and what sections they pertain to. All right, here's a pro tip. Pro tip! Listen, when you lead your team in a meeting, take off your hat. It's like, I don't wear hats. Or maybe you do wear hats and you just don't like taking off your hat. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a physical hat. So what I'm talking about is when you go into a meeting with your team and you're working through those rules that I gave you in the last slide. Lead with questions, not answers, engage in dialogue, debate, conduct autopsies without blame, and building red flag mechanisms. A lot of times, guys, you're in a meeting with your team and you have to take, like, literally, okay, here's my hat. I'm putting it on the desk here. I actually do it in front of this camera, just like that, in some of our meetings where it's necessary, where I want to be very clear how I'm portraying myself at that moment. It's look, guys, I am participating in this meeting not as the CEO in charge of this company. I'm participating in this meeting as a team member, same level as everybody else. And if my idea sucks, I want you to say, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard, because that will not work, because this. And I will be like, okay, I won't be like, you're getting fired because you hurt my ego. No, you don't have egos. If you want a company that survives, you do not have an ego. You better get rid of that ego. It's going to smash you. Your ego is going to tear down your organization. So take off your hat in your meetings. That means, guys, look, I just want to make sure that I'm clear as to what my role is. We're working through this really tough issue, and I'm participating in this solution. I don't have the answer. And nobody's going to get fired if we chew each other out. And I'm taking off my hat here. I am one of the members of this team. Let's solve the issue. So that's a pro tip for you as you work through your business, working through your SOP operations. And there's two key areas, just two right now, especially if you're, 5-year range in your business or so, hiring and onboarding and initial training, those need the SOPs. Meeting rhythms, you need to have some very clear rhythms for those. And those are subjects for completely different webinars. But I do want you to have this tool and this piece of knowledge to know that these are the sections where you really need to have them. All right, next tool: create a team without dysfunctions. Easy, right? It's just simple. I can have a team with no dysfunctions. Well, it's harder than you think. All right, so creating trust and creating a vulnerability-based trust team. Patrick Lencioni talks about this, and I learned this along the way as I was working through business. I worked through a lot of drama or challenges within our team before I realized the need, or what was being, like, what the realities were that we were allowing to stay there, that we were allowing to be a reality in our organization and the daily rhythms of our team that was impacting the result, creating the drama, or impacting the relationships, creating the drama. So create trust, be vulnerable with each other. So many organizations, they have the absence of trust. And guys, it's not just like, oh, I trust him, he shows the work on time. That's what I mean. I mean, when I'm wrong and I'm very passionate about what I wanted to do or my idea, but it turns out to be not the best idea or not the best direction. And and that the rest of my team shows that because we have this conflict, this great dialogue and conflict that I know that my team and my organization as a whole, because we have a team that trusts each other, has my best interest in mind. Therefore, if I have to give up my very passionate idea, give up implementing that because it's just not the best, and I need to kind of acknowledge that I can't. And that's okay. And that's perfectly fine because so many teams cannot operate that way. Well, my idea wasn't chosen. My feelings are hurt. Well, that guy's been here for 3 months. I've been here for 12 years and my idea wasn't chosen. I know how to run this thing better than he does. I've got more time and education. What the world? Why did we choose his? No. You've gone through the dialogue. You've had the conflict. And now you understand that, it's probably that is the best idea. Being able to trust each other on that level, not that somebody wants to get their idea just because it's the best and they're the smartest, but because you understand that for the good of the entire organization, that person's right, even if they've been there for 3 months and they don't have near as much experience or knowledge as you do, but that's probably the right direction. Or vice versa. Could be somebody that came out of Harvard and they have been through business school and they have an MBA and they're just this awesome superstar and they feel like they're like the consultant of all consultants. And there's a guy that has been in business for 25 years and he's just run a couple companies and he graduated from some community college. But he says, look, Mr. Harvard guy, this is probably the best direction because all of these things don't align with what you just said. And it's like, well, from all of my theories and studies, we can do this, this, and this, and this. And the guy's like, yeah, but some of those we've tried and those didn't work. It's like, well, you didn't try hard enough or whatever. You didn't implement the strategy or you just weren't smart enough. And it's like, no, we actually are smart enough. We did try that and these things didn't work. And here's why. And you've gone through that conversation. You've had that conversation and you're able to be vulnerable with each other and say, okay, you know what? Actually, you're right. That's better than mine. That decision is better than mine. And being able to have that type of vulnerability in and among your team and cultivating that and creating trust is your job as a leader. If it's not there, it's your fault. If it is there, kudos to you. Well done. And you have to keep it there because it doesn't just stay there on its own. You have to cultivate that each and every day. All right. So create a team not afraid of having constructive conflict. We've talked about this. In order to create a team without dysfunction, a dysfunction is not having constructive conflict. Okay. If you can't have constructive conflict, it's because you don't trust each other. Okay. And if you don't have that kind of dialogue, what does it lead to? Worse decisions. Remember, Jordan Peterson said you have to have that dialogue to drive to the right next decisions. So create the team, not afraid to have constructive conflict, to argue with each other because the other answer is wrong. And then, of course, when they're incorrect, to be able to say to be incorrect and move forwards together. All right, building great commitment. And this is about making sure when you've driven to a decision that you've created a very clear set of results that you will be able to then measure, that you'll be able to set a standard for, clearly understand, and everybody who's supposed to be working on that is working on it. And they're working on it either daily or monthly or moving towards it at the appropriate pace because you've set the plan and you've made the clear goals and you assign them to people. And when you come together, everybody says, okay, I've been working on this that's associated with that thing that we're trying to accomplish. And here's my stuff that's done. Or somebody comes to the meeting and says, I've been working on this and this and this. It's associated with that thing, but I'm really having a problem with this section and we're not getting any movement. And I don't know what to do. And I'm trying, but it's not working. And then the other team members come in and help out with that, right? You have the right accountability around the right things with great deep commitment because people have had the conversations, they have had the conflict, they care about each other enough to be real, and they trust each other at that deep level to be able to be vulnerable enough to drive to the right decisions so that we can have the right commitment, so that when you follow up with accountability around those things, it's just an obvious kind of result. Like, yeah, we talked about we're going to do this, we said we're going to do it, and now I'm following up on that, and it's just normal. It's not like, oh, so-and-so is following up on me. They're always on my butt. They're always trying to get me moving. No, we're just following up because we talked about this and we decided what we're going to do. And then paying attention to the results that matter. Status and ego are out the window here. We don't care who's at the top of the totem pole. If they're not doing their work, if they're not getting their stuff done on time, consistently, we deal with that. We talk about it and we make sure that the results matter to us, to the company, and they don't demonstrate the ego or the status of anybody involved. They're simply for the benefit of the organization as a whole. We get to move forward together. So that's a team without dysfunctions. They show up, they enjoy while they're there, they fight and claw with you, they work through big problems together, they're real, they're vulnerable, they're open, they're willing to sacrifice, and they're able to commit very profoundly to those things that matter to the organization, and they don't mind when you follow up with them because they know that's a part of the culture of the organization. That's a team without dysfunction, and it is awesome to work on that kind of team. And I have a team like that, and it is amazing. We work through big problems together all the time, and it's awesome. Creates energy and makes work meaningful. All right, so listen, I know you heard this in elementary school, probably in preschool. Read. This is a tool. This is a tool for you to run your organization better. Read and ensure your leaders read. I read a lot. I was on vacation and I read 2 business books that helped me get better. And it actually one of them profoundly impacted the future of our organization. And I'm really, really excited about that moving forwards. Sometimes when you're just discouraged, you'll read something in a book, you'll read a story about what an entrepreneur went through, and you'll be encouraged. Sometimes when you're struggling with an area of your company, you'll read through something about, read through a piece of material, and that content will jump out at you and it'll really help you carry through your next problem. But guys, commit to doing 1 book a month. It's not a lot. You can do this easily. In just 4 or 5 hours, you can read through a whole book and get a whole new perspective. And there's 2 rules that I follow when I'm reading. It must refresh or provide a new or expanded perspective. And that means you can reread some of the books that you have already read, because a lot of times when you just read through a book, it's kind of like in and out, and it came and went and it's gone. For me, that's kind of how it is. So I take the book, you go back through the book and really extract the information again. So make sure that you and your leaders are reading 1 book per month, and you must, so the 2 rules are refresh and provide a new expanded perspective, and you must be able to apply the material. And that's the type of content that you must be consuming if you're going to be able to solve problems more rapidly and more efficiently as you build your company. It's just a simple tool, but it needs to be part of your operations throughout your monthly rhythms. All right, now this is silly. I know it's silly, but guys, look. When you are not well, you do not solve problems well. Exercise. I don't have time to exercise. I got to get this done. I got to make that sales call. I've got to write those emails for that campaign. I've got to build trust into my team. I've got to make those performance reports. I got to do his TSP reports. I've got to meet with accounting, finance, and everybody else on the planet. I don't have time to deal with the health. I got to take the kids to school. I got to take the kids to practice. I got to get home, and I got to go to sleep for at least 3 hours per night, and then get back to work the next morning. I know it. But look, you must build a life where you can exercise. I can't do it for you. If I would do it for a lot of other people if I could, but I can't. I can do it for myself. And when I do it for myself, it makes me better so that I can help more people. If you are not well, you cannot help anyone. Well, okay, you can help someone, but you cannot help near as many people as you could help if you are well. And what the market requires, or what the market wants most, is people who can solve the most problems for the market. They have needs, you can solve the need, therefore they need you. If you are not well and you can not solve many needs, the market does not need you. Therefore, exercise turns into money over time. If you look at it that way, if you're well, you will be able to serve people better. Serving people better will create more value for you and your organization in your market. Make sure you exercise. Give your permission to do this. If you deal with chronic issues or pain issues, I've dealt with chronic back issues and pain issues in the past. Give yourself permission to get therapy. Get well. Take the therapy, do the sessions, do the treatment, follow up, create the discipline, do it. You will be glad you did. Here's my advice. Do it 3 times per week for 2 hours or 45 minutes per day. Choose one, just do it. Just go do it, and you will be better for it. When you are well, you solve problems better. The market appreciates you more, and you will be able to serve everyone in your family and in your team and your clients way better. So work through this, own it, do it. All right, tool. Make your vision and your values visible. Why? The Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. And Habakkuk 2:2. And I know it's talking about a completely different thing, about the coming doom and destruction or the prophecy, but that Habakkuk is talking about the book in the Bible. But anyways, it just fit there, so I use it. Write the vision, make it plain, and then talk about it. After you talk about it, repeat 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 it till you're blue in the face, and then double it. Okay? And then just keep talking about it and keep going. Because that repetition is going to train your heart and your mind and everyone else to understand what the direction is that you guys are all going and what you're building. Sometimes it gets a little cloudy. Some sessions of your business, you just get the heck knocked out of you, and you just feel like you just don't have much wind. But that's where this comes in again. Write the vision, make it plain, go back to the vision, and start repeating it again, and help everyone in the company, in the organization, to know what you're doing, where you want to go, and how big you're going to create this thing. And this will help you solve so many problems. Most performance problems in business comes from people not knowing why they are there or how they're expected to behave when they stay. Isn't everybody just there to make money? No, people are not in your business just to make money. And if you do have a business like that, you're probably not watching this video. Because people who want to make wholesome videos wholesome companies that stand the test of time, that actually make an impact, that provide value to people and their communities, they probably don't interact with my company very much. But people are not there just for the money. People, your team members, they hired a boss, a leader. They hired somebody, a vision. And that might be you. That if you're the owner of the thing, or if you're a leader, that's you. And if they hired you, you need to do a good job for them and for yourself. So if you don't have your vision for your organization written down, and you're not communicating that consistently until you're tired of it and sick and tired of it, until your team members can repeat the things that you're saying, then you haven't communicated enough, and you haven't quite done your job as a leader to make sure that your team knows where you're going and what you're doing and how they should be behaving. That kind of leads me to my next point, which is in the next slide. But just remember that everybody on your team is not there just for the money, because ultimately that's not enough to run a business. It's not enough because the sacrifice is going to be way deeper. The load is going to be way heavier, and the timeline will be way longer than you think it will take to achieve any level of success. And so if that is the case, money becomes a very, very moot point. It's there, it's important, it's the lifeblood of the organization, but it's not the main reason that people are in your organization. And if you don't understand that, you'll never be a truly great leader. I don't think you'll be a leader at all, actually. You just kind of be a worker. You'll just kind of have something. But if you want to actually be a great leader, okay, let me rephrase that. If you want to actually be a leader, then you have to write the vision, make it plain, and talk about it a whole lot. So make sure that this is available to you and your team. I'm in the process right now of clarifying our company, because you don't just do it and be done with it, by the way. Like, I've done this and I come back to it again and again and again to re-clarify exactly what it is and make sure that it's still exactly up to date and accurate for our team. And so right now, again going through this exact thing about the purpose and vision and the values of our organization. I've already done a big section of it, and now I'm finishing up, and I'm very excited about that for our team. So anyways, it's always something that I drive back to myself that helps me remind me why the heck I do this. Why the heck do I stand in front of a camera for an hour making videos every week on Wednesdays, plus all of the other ones? Why do I do that? Well, it's in the vision. There's a reason. Okay, so write that, make it plain for you and the rest of your team. All right, excuse me. I'm getting a little dry throat here. Let me get some water. All right, that led me to my next point here, guys. Make the advantage a reality for your company. These are 6 questions, as you can see on the screen. These 6 questions create the advantage in your company. In fact, Patrick Lencioni wrote a book about it called The Advantage. How convenient is that? It's laying right here on my shelf. All right, so the advantage is a reality for your entity that no matter what happens in your marketplace, because markets go like this, let's see, up and to the right, maybe like that for you, right? Up and to the right, it goes like that. But what so many people don't seem to remember is a lot of times it goes like that. And the distance between here and here, nobody really knows how many months it could be, how many years it could be, or how many days it could be. Could be short, could be long, who knows? But in the market, we see ups and we see downs. And the advantage is what exists in your organization to help your company make sure that that over time, that you have the benefit of that long trajectory curve that kind of goes up and to the right. That you simply, it's not like up, down, crash and burn, because you don't have the advantage to stand the rest of the time. So making sure the advantage is a reality for you and your organization is vital. Answer these 6 questions for you. I know it sounds very simple, but sit down with your leadership team. There's a whole process and mindset behind this. But when you answer these questions clearly and succinctly for your organization, you will be able to have the advantage that's a consistent reality for you to make sure that you get through all the ups and downs of your organization and that you have an upward trajectory over time. So this is a tool and a very important reality. Make sure it's in your company. If you need more information about it, talk to us more. I made a webinar about each one of these questions. You can go back in our webinar series and find how to answer each one of these questions for your business so that you can apply it and build a tool out so that you can use it in your operations. So take this, go do it. Your organization will be better for it. It's a powerful, powerful tool for making sure you solve the problems in your business. All right, now listen, guys, this is one big one. I was not sure if I would add it because I thought about, it's a reality that so many businesses face and so few people talk about it, which is why I decided to go ahead and add it. Because if you don't know about this, this is more of an acknowledgement of something that will eventually happen. If you don't know about it, you get caught off guard by it and you feel like it's going to destroy your company. So what is the wall? The wall, be prepared for the wall. That's the tool. Be prepared for the wall. That's the tool. So the wall is what? Future periods of your business that will require extreme levels of tenacity, learning, and sacrifice, and you will have no idea how to overcome the challenge at first. That's the definition of the wall. Okay, that's what it is. Now you're like, well, I'm smart. Every challenge that we have had in our business, we can work through. You will eventually get to the wall, and at different periods of your business, you will hit a different wall. You're like, oh my gosh, stop being so pessimistic. I'm not being pessimistic. So many businesses, they're building their business. So just think, this is a business. This is a growth curve, right? And then you hit the wall, boom, and you're still operating. It's not like you failed or nothing, like you don't have any sales and nothing is moving. But you hit the wall, and you're like, well, Is this the status that we can grow to? Is this the type? Is this the maximum operation that we can get to? And that's all we've been made to accomplish. Like we can only get to here. And then you start looking around and you're like, okay, let me. Well, that kind of thing. I can go over there and do that thing over there. I can grow that, and you kind of go back here, and then you grow back up, and you hit the wall again at about the same stage of business. And if you don't know about this phenomenon, I have no better way to say it than really it's a phenomenon in business. You will not be prepared, and you will feel like you're a failure. It will cause you to doubt all of your previous success. It will cause you to doubt your ability to grow any further, and you might lose hope. So the reason I want to share it with you in this webinar is so that you don't lose heart when you hit this wall, because evidently you will. Nobody told me about that. Nobody told me that I would get to that someday at a point in my business and I would have no idea how to overcome the challenge. And I was like, I thought that all of the business concepts I learned in school and the theory and the seminars I went through, I thought they would prepare me for this, but no one did. And when I got there, the first time it was like, oh my gosh, my business is going to die. We're not going to make it. But after I got through that wall and continued on past, we achieved a much higher level of growth than I could ever imagined for the next period. And then I hit another one. And so, guys, you will hit the wall in businesses multiple times, and they will come at very specific integral part. They will become at very specific times in your growth curve where you won't expect it. You didn't expect that to be the reality, except it is, and now you have to deal with it. And you will not have all the tools, and it will require way more of you than you thought. So to accomplish. So look, the tool is this: acknowledge it will eventually happen, and you're okay with not being enough for the moment, but you're really ready and willing to become what is required for your business to prosper. And by the way, you don't know how thick the wall is. You don't know how long it will take you to get through the wall. It's reinforced steel and concrete, and you have to slam and beat on it until you pierce through that wall. And you don't get to take another step in the growth for your organization until you go through the wall. It's infinitely high. You cannot go over it. It's infinitely wide. You can't go around or under it. You have to go through it. And until you get through it, you don't get to get through it. Sounds kind of elementary, but again, realize that you and your business are going to hit a wall one day, and you're not going to be able, you personally, your current condition is not enough to be able to overcome it. But you will, if you know this and you're ready to become it, you will become what is required to be able to overcome it. Okay? Most businesses stagnate at this 70% of growth that they could accomplish, but exponential growth lies on the other side. If you've ever seen a growth curve, I'm going to try to do it with my hand here. You see a steady, here's a start point over here, right? And it's kind of a steady growth. But at the 10 plus year point of many growth curves in business, there's like this exponential, like boom, and it goes way up, right? Well, just before that boom way up was a period where there was a wall, and this company had to go through it, and they had to beat on that thing and beat on it and beat on it and beat on it until they got through. And 70% of their work happened. Let me see, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, okay, on the screen here. 70% of their work happened before they hit the wall. And then they hit the wall. But like 90% of their growth happened after they went through the wall. Okay? So remember, it was like this, hit the wall, go through it, and up. Okay? So that's what happens for a lot of businesses, and they stop at that wall. They don't become enough. And eventually they just kind of dwindle out, or maybe they even sell at that stage, or they just spend the rest of their lives only operating at that level because they simply don't know how to go further and upwards. And there's always a way to get through the wall. Know this, there's always, if you're willing to become what is required to get through the wall, there's always a way to get through and to prosper and to get to the exponential growth that's on the other side. But you have to know that this wall is coming and that you will have to grow in order to and have in unbelievable levels of tenacity to get through it. All right, so I just wanted to share that tool with you because I truly believe it's a tool. If I knew about this before I hit it the first couple times in my business, it would have been a lot more helpful. So nobody told me about this. Now I know. I'm sharing it with you. I hope your life is better for it. All right, let's continue on. All right, know yourself. This is a tool, very, very powerful tool. You need to know yourself well enough to know your gifts, where you're truly genius at, to know when you're working on sections of your company and you really suck at that work and you just hate that work, that you need to know what work makes you terribly frustrated. What types of work make you terribly frustrated? If you're detail oriented and you work on the marketing team only sending out, or maybe that's a bad example. Let me say, or maybe you're working on the sales team, simply making presentations and talking to people and being very, very active in front of people, in front of the present, in big presentations, or hosting online meetings or webinars, or just doing these big kind of flashy big things, and you're a super detailed person and kind of introvert. You need to know yourself well enough to understand you can't operate in that environment and stay there and stay charged. You also need to know that how long you can be in that environment without losing your charge, and how long you need to be doing whatever it is you need to be doing to recharge, so that you are recharged to do the work your company requires you to do. So what does that mean? All right. I can't stand very massively, like, super detailed problems. I pay attention to detail. I'm very careful about those, but I cannot stand looking through huge pieces of data, analyzing big databases, and digging through content. Sometimes I'm looking through. For example, yesterday I had to write a series, a chain of emails for a marketing campaign, and I was writing through them, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is draining the soul out of my body. Can I do this? Yes. Can I do it well? Yes. But it is draining the soul out of my body to have to write the sequence to this exact group of people. And so by the time I get done with the work, I feel like I worked for 7 hours when I really only worked for 1. And I had to go recharge my brain so that I actually could re-engage in life, so that I could get back to the work. So you need to know yourself well enough to understand what work completely drains you, where your gift lies, and how you can apply that most masterfully in your organization. And you need to know the same for each of your team members. Because if you don't know your gifts, their gifts, and their frustrations, you're going to have team members doing work that they're not good at, and they get frustrated at, and they just hate the heck out of the work, but they have to do it because maybe they have to feed their family and make money, and you're the one who hired them, and they're the best. It would seem like the best option at the time, and you have them doing that work, and they suck at it, and it drains them completely from everything that they love in life, and you're their leader, and you wonder why their performance is bad. Well, it's because you don't know them well, and you don't know what their gifts and their frustrations are, and you don't know how they do a charge. And so they're just dead batteries, and you can't win with a team full of dead batteries. Don't be ashamed of your weakness. Don't be ashamed of your weakness. I am terrible at coming up with ideas on or systems on how to solve things. I'm terrible, but my team members are genius at it, like Einstein level genius. But I'm terrible at it. I'm really terrible. Like, my mind goes blank, nobody home, like there's not much going on up here, and I'm thinking about, like, how are we going to get from A to B? And then I might, like, well, we need to get over there. That's what I know. Like, we're here and we need to get over there. Well, what is all that stuff in between? And my team comes in and attacks out like nothing else, and we get from A to B to C to D to E, F, all the way to Z. And it was like, holy cow, how did you figure that out? And they know how to do that. So you don't be ashamed of your weakness. You do what you're good at. By the way, nobody else in our organization is in front of the camera. And guess who's in front of the camera? I am, because it's one of my strengths. It's one of the things that I can do best for our organization, and I can apply that the best for the benefit of everyone on the team. And so here I am. Right? So harness your genius and augment your weakness. Wherever you're weak, bring strength into that. Don't just try to be good at what you're super weak at and drain the living soul out of your bones. Augment where you're weak, acknowledge your gifts and frustrations, and know how you recharge. In the evenings, one of the reasons that so if you don't know, I talk like everybody knows me, but I know people who are watching this video, you don't know me. So I have these companies that we do online, the TVP team and Taika Translations. And in the evening, after my work is done, I go walk on my farm. I have a big farm. I grew up in South Texas. I love outdoors. I'm a hunter. I love fishing and stuff like that. And I take a walk in the evening, can be a couple hours, out in the fields by my cows, because it's where I can recharge and refresh for the next day. So you need to know what it is that causes you to recharge. You have to know yourself well enough. And this is a tool that you need to have in your possession as a leader of your organization that will help you stand the test of time and operate your company so far into the future, you won't even imagine how amazing it can be. So don't be ashamed of your weakness. Harness your genius. Augment your weakness. Remember that to move forwards. All right. So guys, I just want to bring this to a close here. And you might ask, well, I thought you were going to just talk about all these really powerful tools like A, B, C, do this, and this, and this, and you'll become successful. And this is how you solve all your problems in business. I wanted to bring a little bit of a different scope on solving the business problems for people, because business is organic. There are so many types of problems that you will be introduced to, whether it's in finance, sales, legal, maybe you're contracting, maybe interrelational politics, or PR, or maybe it's something happening in the production area of your company. And if you have the overarching knowledge that can give you some greater comprehension, you will have a comprehensive ability, because you know this breadth of information that you can take the pieces of and start to apply it and work through to be able to solve your problems in your company. All problems come from vastly different forms. But these systems that I talk about in this webinar, if they're woven into your entity's reality, they eliminate the small problems rapidly on a daily, day-to-day basis. They just eliminate, they just vaporize. Sometimes it's like, whew, they're gone. And you're like, oh my gosh, I thought that was going to be worse than it was. It's not even there anymore. And you get to move on to the things that truly matter to make a difference. And they help you work through big ones with so much more confidence. Like if somebody would have told me about the wall, that phenomenon in business before I became acquainted with it, I would have had so much more confidence when I dealt with it the first time. But because I didn't know, because nobody gave me that tool, that knowledge, and I've been set under the tutelage of leaders for many years. I just didn't know, and I had a terrible break in confidence at that time of my life. So I want to give that to you in this format, because all of these problems they're different. They come at you in different ways. And you have to have all of these tools working for you continually over time in your organization to be able to prosper. So listen, if you need help with any of these problems on how to implement them into your organization, reach out to us. I can help you do that, and I'll be glad to. All right, thank you so much for joining me in this webinar today. I look forward to meeting with you next week at the same time, the same place, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. And we'll talk about the next subject. I haven't chosen it yet, but we're going to be choosing it over the next about 24 hours so that we can start making the information, putting the content together, so it will be useful and fruitful for you as you spend your time with us. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you next week at 8:30 Eastern. No, 8:30 Central.